Welcome to UnplugIT. Look, we have seen a number of changes coming to Microsoft Teams. In particular, it is now available worldwide. It has been rolled out to everyone. And it's been a rapid pace for changes within Microsoft Teams. We thought we'd take a closer look at Teams, but we also recognize there's another favorite application that everyone uses to communicate, and it's also seen some changes. We're seeing New Outlook, and New Outlook is definitely a changing place, not quite there for people who like the classic experience, but we are seeing some classic features coming into New Outlook. We're also seeing some rapid changes there too, because New Outlook is based on an Outlook browser experience. So Stephen and I are going to take a closer look. Let's get into it.
Thanks, Darrell. Hey, everybody. Welcome. Like I said, and like Darrell said, we're going to talk about New Outlook and new Teams this week and kind of dig into a few of our favorite features. Now, it's been said with Outlook, I know a lot of folks are unhappy with it. I love some of the functionality in it, but I've also had some issues. And there's some support things like a lack of COM add-ins. I just saw PST backup show up in an update just the other day, and I know that's been a big thing for folks, is that offline ability, and that just popped up for me. Has that popped up in yours yet, Darrell?
Not yet, but it is that critical piece, especially with New Outlook. Yeah.
All right, so without any further ado, we're going to jump in. We're going to talk about 10 features that you may or may not be aware of, but that we think make the experience a little bit better. So let's do it. Okay. I've made mine into a top 10. Darrell is not, and that's fine. And my top 10 are certainly not in any specific order. But the first one that I really like is drag and drop support for Teams calendars. This is something that I'm really used to in Outlook, and not being able to take a meeting and just drag it to a new date and then take a look and see who's available and who isn't really quickly was something that kind of drove me a little bit crazy. So I'm really glad to see it's there. Darrell?
Yeah, I just noticed it this morning myself, and just going through recording this animated GIF. I like how when you drag it to that new location, it is prompting you to send an update to the people you've invited. So it takes you through a familiar experience there.
Yeah, and it's matching the Outlook experience, which is what people have been asking for, is make the Teams experience match the Outlook experience. So I'm happy to see this one. I think it's small, but it really shows that Microsoft is listening to the feedback. New views in Teams. Another one that I'm also really, really happy about. So you have different levels now of calendar views, agenda views, monthly views, where you can now really break down and take a look at each day or each week or work week, etc. Again, the same way that you do in Outlook. So another feature that they brought over that just helps to make that jump between the two products, I think, a little bit easier. Is this something that you've played with?
It is. I sometimes like the agenda view when I'm just looking at what's coming up during the day. And what I like about new Teams is that there's more opportunity to pop these applications out into its own separate window. So it feels like I can have a Teams calendar over on one side and a monitor, and I can get on with other Teams work inside another window.
All right. I agree 100%. All right, let's see. Ooh, it does go backwards. All right, number 8, zoom in, zoom out during a screen share. This is another one not coming from Outlook, but a lot of folks have asked for it, because you can take that presentation window and you can pop it out. That's there. But even then, it still makes it difficult if somebody is showing a chart that has a ton of information in it. So now you will see that ability to be able to zoom in and zoom out on the screen share that folks are doing. And I think this is a really, really big one, because I've popped it out and I've got a big monitor and either I can't see it or it's so grainy. Thoughts?
Yeah, no, I know this one's been around for a little while, and I'm in the habit of sometimes just trying things out, like holding down the control button and scrolling my wheel and mouse, and that actually tends to zoom it in too. But you're right, Stephen, it helps with those less experienced presenters who are on massive monitors that will share their whole screen. and you want to get in and see some of those details on a spreadsheet that you might be discussing, or some, eye chart of a slide to try and see what's going on.
Yeah. And at Microsoft, they used to cram so much stuff into a slide when it was showing like a plan, because we had all these different groups and dollars and budgets and stuff. And it would have so much information that it just would not translate well. And I think this is really great. I think this is long overdue.
Well, there's one other thing about this, Stephen. Too. When you do zoom in, which is cool, but sometimes you'll want to, get around the rest of the slide or the rest of the screen. It is just a drag and drop experience to get to those other places that are no longer in the crop of the zoom. So keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, you get a hand that kind of helps you to move it. So, yeah. All right, my number 7, chat embedded in the Microsoft Edge browser. Why is this important? Well, think about the times that somebody has dropped a link into chat, and that link goes outside of a team. And then all of a sudden a browser pops up and you have it. You're trying to go back to the chat in the window. It gets a little frustrating. So with this, what's going to happen is that the chat opens up right there. You can continue to see the chat as you are in the browser reading whatever it is that someone sent you to. I believe this is right now in Bing, in the Edge browser only. I don't think I've seen this in the Chrome browser, but it just better helps you to stay in the flow of communication. Darrell?
Yeah. Well, there was a setting that appeared in both Outlook and Teams a little while back, and it was around which browser do you want to use to open up links? And it was setting this Edge to the default. And I believe it was setting up for this experience. Now, initially it's a bit jarring. You're like, what's going on here? I've got chat over to the side, and it's using the chat panel within the Edge browser, which I thought, okay. But now that I see it when you're opening up a document, and maybe you're discussing that document in a chat, you've still got the chat alongside, but you can look at the document. And this used to be something that Teams tried to do inside the Teams experience, but now being that it's in the Edge browser, I think it's quite a tidy way to do it.
Yeah, I agree. No, well put. So chat embedded in the browser while with checking out, and like I said, helping you to stay in the flow of work. Number 6, collaborative notes in Microsoft Teams. Now you're going to say, well, yeah, we've always had notes in Teams, but we've really expanded it now on several different areas. First of all, it's not just OneNote, it's Loop or whatever chat you want. And those meeting notes, whether they were created by you or the meeting notes that are created by Copilot, can now also and will also show up in that meeting and in the meeting recap. So what's great is now when someone opens up an Outlook, and they take a look, they'll see the previous meeting notes. They'll see the decks that were shared. They'll see those notes. And if it's in Loop, then those notes can actually be copied and shared across multiple different apps within the ecosystem. So it's just taking notes and making it better and allowing people to work within the app that best makes sense and to share it with folks when they need it and not go searching for it. Now, Darrell, you're a big fan of collaborative notes, and I know especially of Loop. What are your thoughts here on sort of expanding that role and bringing that together?
Yeah, look, I think it's a good thing for people to consider when they're organizing a meeting. If you're preparing and you're adding that agenda and the like, that putting collaborative notes on a meeting before you send it means that you're setting that tone already. Good thing about it, too, is that it will open up for you when you enter the meeting. Now, this is currently just an experience for people within your organization. If you have guests that have invited to your Teams meeting, they're not going to see collaborative notes. But the rest of your team, it'll pop up and it'll prompt them to see what the agenda is. They can add those notes alongside it. And then being part of the recap, absolutely. It's about, if you've recorded the meeting and got your transcript, great, but maybe you've taken some important notes together.
Agreed. Yeah, it's really, again, we talked about staying in the flow work. It's putting those notes where you need them, when you need them. And that's different for a variety of people and how they work. That same functionality now also comes to Teams Mobile. So with that, you can go into notes, you can see the notes that are being written, you can write your own, you can add your own. That was something that was missing. And I know as someone who often, when I travel, just brings like an iPad to be able now to go in And sorry, read those and participate has been really, really important. And it's great to see so much of the new functionality finally coming. Things like live captions and all the background effects and the ability to bring in apps all into mobile. It just takes a little playing with it. The thing about Teams Mobile is sometimes you have to click or you have to flick up to see things. If you've not had a chance, because every time you see this, you're afraid of disconnecting from the meeting, set up a meeting with somebody and say, hey, I just want to test some of the features. It's a really good way if you're going mobile to mobile to see how this stuff works and not hang up in the middle of an important meeting where you might feel awkward in doing that. I actually did that. Said, hey, can we get on a fake meeting and kind of play with this stuff? And it was great. There's some really cool stuff in there that I enjoy doing. Places is one of my favorite, where I could show somebody where I'm at and it gives them a little map and allows them to see where I'm at, which is great when I'm like, hey, I'm here. What's your ETA? And I can send them a little map if we're meeting for lunch or something. So yeah, there's some cool stuff in there.
I like the tip you gave, Stephen, that just try this thing out without it being in a crucial meeting, because
Right.
That Teams experience in a meeting, it does feel like you're going away from the currently running meeting. It'll bring up that full screen chat, or as we see here, the collaborative notes. But in some cases, it'll show that meeting still running in the little picture-in-picture. So should give you confidence that you can use any of these features while you're in a meeting.
But it can be a little awkward, and people are just terrified they're gonna hang up on the meeting. So yeah, just go offline, practice it, get with somebody else. Find in channel or chat search panel. Search has been very slowly getting better in Teams. This is huge because one of the things was I just want to find when we talked about this in chat, and a lot of people use group chats. Instead of doing it inside of a team, they do it on group chat, which I know that's how most folks work. Be aware, it's not going to pick up when you go to Copilot, those chats and files you're sharing. Try to move them into a team. We've talked about that before. But at least now you have a good way for you to be able to find every time a project name or someone or something like that was mentioned, not just in a channel, but in chat. And this has made, not for me, but for a lot of people, has made their jobs dramatically easier and better. And a lot of folks were not aware of this. And once I showed them, they're like, this is what I have been waiting for, to be able to search in chat and find whatever it was that we were doing. Darrell, what have you heard from folks on this?
Yeah, look, I've been using the channel search feature more often than the chat one. And what I find useful there is you're already in the channel. So it has the context. I want to search in there. You'll use the sidebar and you'll use the search feature from there. And so rather than going up to that search panel or other box and having to set all your filters to narrow it all down, you're already in the context. And I find that quite useful to go back and find that conversation that I've had with my team.
Yep. Agreed. 100%. 100%. So check that one out if you haven't played with it already. It's so useful. So good. Loop components supported in channels. Darrell, this one's all yours. Since you are the loop guy, I will let you speak to this one.
Well, look, ever since Loop was released, people were saying, what about using Loop within Teams? And finally, it arrived in channels. And this was around about the beginning of the year. Now, this means that if you're a member of a team and you want to add a loop component to a conversation, a post in a channel, then you can do so. And guess what? That loop file is stored within the team. Oh, yes. So it's not in someone's OneDrive. It's there for the whole team to experience and use, even if the creator moves on. It's very collaborative, and it's actually the best way to get your team into seeing the true value of collaboration with Loop, because it is there and available for the team. One other thing I'll add too, and I discovered this when it arrived, was it actually works for guests in Teams. So this is the one thing where you want to be able to share Loop with people outside of your organization. Invite them into a team as a guest. Give them access to a Loop component you add into the conversation, and away you go.
The other great thing about this, and I've had some companies that have had some issues with governance and compliance when loop elements were being stored in personal OneDrives. As you mentioned, this gets it out of that. So therefore, you can put expiration dates and things like that on it. And that's been a big blocker for some companies in adopting loops. So this is great. And like I said, it's, as you said, something that folks have been asking for a very long time. So it's good to see it finally show up. All right. Number 2, support for chat forwarding. This is a feature that most folks don't even realize is there. So if you're having a chat with someone and you want to not invite them into the chat, but you want to forward it to them like, hey, Darrell, how are we looking for next week? Or is this the show schedule? Great. Then I can take it and forward that and say, hey, Darrell and I discussed the show schedule. Here is our conversation, and be able to have that much the way that you would forward an email. It showed up without a lot of fanfare, and it's the little quotation marks, but it is a very, very useful feature. You could also forward it to Outlook as well from there. So not just in Teams, you could forward it to your team, to Outlook. There's a bunch of different ways that you can use it. Have you played with this yet?
No, I mean, I've used the quote feature, but I didn't realize that it was a way of also forwarding the conversation to people. So when you're hitting that quote button, does that mean you can then say, I want to forward it to a chat or to a channel conversation? It just takes the text from that conversation?
Yeah, what I can do, and I'm going to look at it right here on my other monitor. So if I go to a chat that I'm having with someone and I pop out that chat, I will now see it there, and I can say, hey, I'd like to forward this chat to somebody. So by click that, it now says, hey, I can forward it to somebody else on the same team, on a different team. I have a variety of ways and different places that I can do that. And it'll say forward to a person. As long as they're within the org, it can do it, or I can forward it to somebody as an email. But it's great. It makes it so much easier now when I want to bring somebody in on something. I find it really helps. So definitely worth checking out. Right now it's in the web version. I haven't seen on the desktop version yet, but it is going to be coming soon. So check this out on Teams on the web. And my final one, surprise, surprise, it's new Teams. Yes, new Teams as a whole. So new Teams is great. It is so much faster. It still uses a lot of RAM, but it's nowhere near where it was at. We're seeing a lot of new functionality come faster. I'm really, really happy with the relaunch and sort of the separation from the SharePoint framework in really sort of building this out anew and really sort of rethinking it from the beginning. And most folks are very happy with it. In the beginning, there were so many features and functionality that were missing. Everybody's like, nope, I'm turning it off. I'm going to wait. And when they said, hey, this is going to be going to GA at this time, I was a little nervous, but they really pulled it in, made very clear what was not there and what would be coming. And when it was launched, officially and said, hey, we're going to start moving everybody over in March this year, I was very, very happy with the quality of what everybody had done and where it's at. So what's your kind of thought on new Teams now that you've had a good amount of time playing with it compared to the previous client?
Well, it is, from a consultant's point of view, quite useful for being signed into different environments. And, when we're having to support a project, we want to be able to easily switch between and be a full participating person within an organization. So it's super useful for that. I am still hearing some niggles around the performance. As you say, sometimes it's a bit heavier on the RAM, and there are a couple of features that aren't in new Teams yet, which I certainly miss, like being able to mute a conversation thread in a team. Can get kind of noisy. But yeah, it is. I know that even if there are still a few rough edges, it is the step forward because there's a number of other things that are going to rely on this new capability with Teams. We actually talked about one. It was loop in channels. There'll be more things like that where it's setting up for more capabilities.
I agree, and I'm excited to hear what gets announced at the Orlando conference next week. I'll be there, so I'll be doing some wrap-ups from that, and even off as we take a look at Ignite later on this year. All right, Darrell, going to turn it over to you. Very contentious, the new Outlook versus classic Outlook. A lot of people have some very, very specific thoughts and feelings there. So you tell me when to go to the next slide and how to do this.
Sure thing. I'll frame this up, and it's a thought I've had recently that people get very comfortable with software in the way that they've always used it. So classic Outlook has been with people for years, of course, and the capability it's been built on, comms add-ins, all sorts of different ways to manage your inbox with rules and all kinds of things. And another way that I was thinking of framing this too is with that comfort, people through the pandemic, they had to be rushed to Teams. They had to be rushed to all kinds of different applications to try and get work done. But the true trusted Outlook was always there in its classic form, and you could always rely on that and fall back on it. So I can understand people have certainly got a position of don't change my environment too much. Right. Don't mess with my classic. And like you said earlier, Stephen, it's been pushed out. This change to new teams is not going to be enforced until is 2029. Did you say?
Yeah, 2029 is when the support for the current Outlook client will go away. And while you're talking about this, I want to remind folks went nuts when they got rid of the menu bar and changed it to the ribbon bar, and everybody lost their mind. Now, most folks, I think, like the ribbon bar and are pretty happy with it, and have even gone to a more minimalist custom bar. So think about how that has helped you and how long it would take you if you had to go back to the old one to do things, and kind of think about that as you move forward and as we talk about these features and functionality.
Yeah, it's a great point, Stephen. I think the most vocal are going to be the people that have been in the industry for quite some time. They definitely have used Outlook to its fullest capabilities. So when looking at new Outlook and seeing, it doesn't quite do what I want to, or it's missing some of those comfort features, you can understand their position. But the other thing that I'll talk about with the new the new Outlook,
this episode was going to be fun. We were just talking about Teams for so long. Yes, with the new Outlook, yes.
Yeah. So new Outlook, for some of our workforce, and even myself, who prefer to work in a web browser for Outlook, it is very much the same. And we do see a lot of change happening there quickly to deliver other useful features. So we're going to take a look at some of those.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Right.
So under email, there's a lot of features here. Which one or two really stick out to you?
I use snooze email a lot across my mobile and now across my desktop. And it might sound like, snooze sounds like a lazy function, a lazy word, but it's a really convenient, quick way to say, I do want to address that, but I want it to be kind of re-delivered to me so that it's at the top of my inbox, and then I can address that at the time that I want it. So being able to do that from my mobile and knowing that later on in the morning when I'm back at my desk, that it'll be there, I can address it that way. How do you find the snooze feature, Stephen?
It's nice. It's like, hey, I'm focusing on something else that's important, but I want to be reminded. I don't just want to pin it. And that's really where I use that. Pinning emails is great. Like, hey, I'm going on a trip, so here's my reservation information, or things along that line where I can pin it at the top, or things that I want to make sure that I get back to. But I think between the two, it's definitely helped me to get better organized.
Yeah, definitely. I haven't used the sweep feature much, but for those of us who play that zero inbox game, it's certainly a nice one button capability to go in and try and tidy up your inbox. So, good to see that there in Outlook. And if I skip down a bit, something like, why would we have email reminders in this list for new Outlook features? It's actually to call out that we was it email reminders, or is this the
email reminders? Yeah, are the things where you can not only snooze it, but you can also say, hey, save it as new, or remind me at this time. Instead of just snoozing, which is a preset time, you can actually say, remind me of this tomorrow at 5 a.m. or 9 a.m. or whatever time you like. So
Right, more
let me just
functional
double check
flags,
on
right?
that as we're doing it. So let me go to, I have the new Outlook open, and I will go to an email, and I will right click it. And yes, I get the snooze where I can pick when and where. So I think that's what we're looking at, is snooze as a whole, and that ability to say later today, this evening, tomorrow, this weekend, choose a date, choose a time that you would like for that. So I think we kind of put 2 in 1 with that. So yeah.
Yeah. We are seeing an expansion too on being able to customize email and calendar actions, so that when you do want to string together a couple of things that you might do with an item, you can use the actions. And it's a bit like mailbox rules, where you're able to, achieve a few things, like flag this and then drop it into an important folder, and that's quite handy. I know there's another slide or two that we've got further along, which will show some of these things as we step through.
Yep.
Let's think about calendar, for example. The way that we can view our calendar now is quite helpful in new Outlook. I like the different views that we have available, but also being able to change that with, because we sometimes want to have a bit more space, or sometimes have it a bit more cozy. And I did see, Stephen, this was one thing that a friend of mine suggested. For those of you who do want to make new Outlook look more like classic, you can play with these sorts of features of cozy view versus more relaxed and a bit more space around it.
Yeah. I love meeting icons. That's a great one, because the icons are really great for me visually to see what that meeting or what's going on and what that's about. Workplace location, if I'm trying to find a day of the week that is best for people to meet. And I love the Find Time calendar, where I can publish that as part of my signature, and folks can go out and see when I have availability. So there's some really cool stuff here. Let's jump into, you were talking about task and calendar and your My Day panel. Why don't you walk us through this?
Yeah, this is something we've been able to do in Classic, and it is providing an equal experience where, you can open up that to-do pane in Classic Outlook. You've got your tasks. You can maybe display your calendar as well. So this experience here with the to-do pane, what it allows you to do, and I'll just wait for it to restart there, is you can open it up on the side. You can either see your calendar or your to-do list. So synchronizing or using the Microsoft To-Do. You've got a task here, which I've got to drag out, and I want to assign some time or block out some time on my calendar for it. So that's probably one of the most common ways that I'm using this feature, is to make sure that I'm working on my task list and I've got it blocked out in my calendar to do so.
I'm happy that this got integrated, because I often use it, take an email and drag it onto to-dos where, hey, I want to follow up with this tomorrow, but don't want to deal with it today. But the problem is it would open up the to-do app for me, and I'm happy I can now do it inside of a single app and don't have to leave that. And that really makes a difference.
Yeah. Okay, we'll have a look at the next one.
Yep. Oh, sorry. Yep, there we go. InPerson Event.
Yeah, so this is reasonably new. And, some of us are still definitely working hybrid. We're working in an office and from home, or sometimes fully hybrid. But this is a good way to help signal to people that we're invited into a meeting, that we do want it to be in person. So you'll see that little switch beside that location pin drop. It adds the block, you could say suffix rather, in square brackets to say that it's an in-person event. And it's really just that simple. But from a planning perspective, if I'm inviting Stephen to an in-person event, if I ever get over to Seattle again, then you will know that I would want to meet you in person. Would you use this to say to your clients maybe that, hey, let's meet, let's catch up, here's the actual location?
Yeah, I have. I like that. It also allows folks, when it is in person, because if you type in where it's at, it'll actually search for the room. Or if we're meeting at a restaurant, I can type in the restaurant, and it uses Bing to go out and go find the address for that restaurant and drop it in there. So I like that. It also is nice at a glance to go, oh, hey, that's an in-person meeting, even though there's a Teams link. So I need to make sure I have enough time to get there. So I like that little heads up in the top, because that makes a big difference for me.
Yeah. So probably more helpful, I guess, for organizations when you are planning it's an in-person event. Here's the room that we're planning to use.
Right.
But yeah, I still like that it does in an inclusive way say, look, even if you couldn't make it, there is a Teams link. We are going to try and well, it depends on the people, doesn't it? They've got to make sure they use the equipment in the room, but it's there.
Absolutely. Yep.
All right. So next up,
group homes and views.
Yeah. Maybe some of you still use this. I still do. Before Microsoft Teams, there was a great thing called Outlook groups. And this also, like Teams, pulled together a shared team site, OneNote. You could have Planner with it. And it created a shared mailbox and shared calendar. So that was really quite useful for those of us who are sort of Outlook centric. And I still use it occasionally for just reaching out to clients where I don't want to necessarily have them switching between teams and inviting them to lots of teams. It just simply, it loops them in with an email. Now, what's changed here within new Outlook, or even Outlook on the web, as you see, is a new group home experience. Rather than just seeing your list of your Outlook groups along the left-hand side and switching into them, it combines them all and it shows updates and changed activity there. So I can glance across some of my clients that I'm using this feature with. I can see meeting recordings, files that I've shared with, if they've changed some things. And it's very easy for me to navigate around these groups. Do you still use groups in Outlook, Stephen, sometimes?
I don't, but I may want to go back and retake a look at it. I've kind of forgotten how valuable it is and all the different things I can do. So I think I'm going to go back and retake a look at it.
Cool.
Thank you.
So next up,
that I hadn't thought about it in ages.
This one is quite useful for those of us who have quite a full calendar and we're planning out our week. We're trying to understand, okay, what are my events? What's on? What type of events are on? That when we're viewing our calendar, we can filter and show different types of events. So the example I'm showing here is that maybe my calendar's full and I just want to show the events that I have been invited to, but I haven't responded to, or maybe events that I am the organizer. And so I want to just untick everything, go in and filter to show just that type of event. I'm the organizer, I sent these events, or I've been invited to a meeting, but here's the ones that I haven't accepted. So for a very full calendar, this is good to use. Would caution you, though, remember to change it back.
Yes.
Sometimes if you don't retick those boxes, you'll have an empty calendar under where is everything?
Yeah, I did that once because I would separate things from different clients and that made things easier. And what was a virtual versus physical. But yeah, I've forgotten to reset it a few times. But it is great when you have so much stuff like, I got to prioritize this, or there's 3 different things at the same time. What are the different levels, or how have I responded? I don't always remember if I say tentative, yes, no, etc., because I like to leave them on my calendar so I can see what I missed and follow up on it. So
do you use categories too, Stephen?
I do. I love categories.
Yeah. So that's
I'll use categories for things like online, in-person, event, travel, personal, all that sort of stuff. I like being able to look at my calendar and I know different colors mean different things, like green is a family thing. So it really helps me to prioritize and understand what's when and what requires my full attention and what can I come back to later.
Yeah, and seeing a certain color and assign it to things like you say, events. You can at a glance say, I'm not going to be available that day, even if it looks like I've got gaps, I'm away.
Yeah, and if something's red, it's a meeting that's really important that I need to be for, and something that is purple tells me it's something I need to prepare for. Maybe I have to give a deck, or I've got to prepare notes or whatever, but then I can see it like, oh, have I actually prepared for that? So colors work well for me in my ADHD brain, so I'm a big fan of colors.
So that's what we're showing on screen now is that in new teams, I keep saying it, new Outlook, our new categories experience, being able to create that new category, a number of different colors to choose from. Here's an example where I might be working on different videos. I've got to, block out some time to work on that. And being able to favorite that category while I'm creating the category is quite useful too. You'll see that it adds that tag on the item I've given that category to, but it creates one of those virtual search folders, right? So immediately there, that's what they now call favorite folders, that I can narrow down and see what are the other items in my inbox which have been tagged with this category.
All right. So what's improved? Search is absolutely much, much faster. I'm really, really happy with the quality of search in Outlook. Any of these others that have really made life easier, I'm going to put up also what is not better, like only being able to see one attachment when you're clicking on it. We talk about PST backup is just starting to come to it. I am in the insiders, so you should hopefully see that later. Anything here that really kind of sticks out to you that has made your life better or still a little bit frustrating for you?
I do like that search allows me to search for different types of items as well. I'm now able to see files. So as an example, I think I was meant to drop in an animated GIF there, but quite handy that I can go there, search for a keyword, knowing that it's part of a conversation in an email, but it also might be a keyword for a file. So quite handy to search from there and also find the file as well. Just really enjoying that categories, new ways of being able to use that, and the quick steps too. As I said, Stephen, I'm using new Outlook more than I am classic Outlook.
Right.
And just appreciating seeing these capabilities come in quite frequently.
I was having a lot of problems with the new Outlook, and what I realized is it's when I'm fine as long as I don't open my calendar sidebar. And I have a lot of calendars. I think I have 8 or 9 different calendars. And my problem was as soon as I would open it, it would lock it all up. So if somebody has an answer on why that is or can help me, that would be great. But that is the one thing that has really kept me from fully using it. But that at least solved my problem of locking up and not being able to use it.
I do maybe have an answer for you, Stephen. So
I would love to hear it.
The full calendar view, of course, you've got your multiple calendars and they're there for a reason to organize your life. In the sidebar, I believe you can choose which calendars you want to show there independent of your full experience. So you could narrow that down to a couple of the.
Do you think it may just be too many there and that's what's doing it?
I think so. In the sidebar,
I'll give it a try. All right, I'll give it a try. So that's what's improved. What's not better? What is not coming to new Outlook? There's a few that have been deal breakers for folks. The COM add-ins have been one of the biggest for some of my customers that have created custom software and are using that as part of a sales cycle or inventory cycle or using it with a CRM. That's a big one for a lot of folks. And those will not be supported. Web add-ins will, but COM add-ins will not. The quick access toolbar, that's something I really like, but I think I can work around that. But that one has been a big one. The other one also, this makes me crazy. I can't do an inline reply, say, please see my comments in a color, and it would automatically do that. I can't do that anymore, and I miss that. That's one I use a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely find that useful. Most people would if they've got to respond to someone who's put a serious effort into their email message and they've asked for certain responses. That inline reply just means you don't have to look further down, look at the message, look back up, but you can actually just see what are those responses there.
Right.
So hopefully, when you say that it's not coming,
right.
hopefully.
And this is as of now. It's not to say that it won't ever come. The COM add-ins, I think that may be a permanent. I don't see that changing because of security and framework. But some of these other ones, if enough people talk about it and complain, who knows? It might come back. So we'll have to see.
Definitely.
All right. Darrell, let's kind of wrap this up now. What would you pick for you as the one feature that has really helped you to be more productive in the new Outlook and in the new Teams? Pick one of each.
All right. Well, new Outlook, I demonstrated it earlier. It is definitely creating a list of tasks and then being able to drag that out onto my calendar and block that time. Now, and not only is it useful to me, but when my team members will look into my calendar and look for some spare time, I share the subject of my meetings in my calendar with everyone in my org, so they can at least see what I am working on, and maybe negotiate with me for that time. But on a productivity level, it means that I'm definitely spending time on a task. I'm getting things done, and it helps to go back and fill out timesheets too later on.
Okay.
I think for teams, I am enjoying the new format for channels, in that when I go into a channel and I look at a conversation, it almost opens up that channel in kind of a focused view, so that you can actually even pop them out. You can pop out and just focus on a channel for conversations, for posts and the like. So I have been starting to use that a bit when I want to keep an eye on a particular project that's been run out of a channel, and I'll open that up in its own window and be quite responsive because it's there and available to me.
Awesome. I think for me, the published calendar has been great, because what that does, especially with the Find Time calendar, allows somebody external who has no access to anything of mine to be able to go and see what time slots I have available and book time with me. And that's been huge as a consultant, saying, hey, go to my website, click this link, or it's in all my emails. They go to it, they can see when I have time that week, and they can click that time slot, and then we're good to go. So that one's really helped. Search in chat, because I have so many different chats with so many different people, has been a lifesaver, because I constantly get little things and I'm like, was that in the team? Which team was it in? Which channel within the team? And this gives me a much better way to search across those, to just search across channels and chats and bring that up immediately. So those two have really changed the way that I work. I'm excited to see more and more of the new features coming to the new Outlook, but glad that folks have got plenty of time to get used to the new teams and Copilot and all that before they start having to pile, new Outlook on top of that. And new Outlook, while it's required for some Copilot stuff, most of the Copilot functionality still works in classic Outlook, which is great. And I think that was a smart move after hearing some of the initial feedback and pushback from folks on the new Outlook.
We have seen in New Outlook just that new button appear just in the last few days. The Copilot button up near where we saw My Day and the task view, it's up there now too, and now opens up a panel. So for those of you who are using Copilot within your organization, that might be quite useful to open that up and start working with prompts in Outlook.
Absolutely. Well, we'd love to hear what your favorite feature is. So reach out to either of us. I am Stephen.Rose@Petri.com. Darrell is Darrell.Webster@Petri.com. And we'd love to hear from you what features and functionality you love, what else you would like to see, things along that line. I think that would be absolutely great. So from myself and from Darrell, thank you for joining us on UnplugIT. And we will see you. I think our next show we're going to do is a wrap-up of the M365 conference. So stay tuned for that. And we have some other great stuff coming. So we'll see you very, very soon. From Darrell and I, thanks so much. Take care.
Bye for now.